It's another week, another round of racing with the ABN Champ Car World Series, this time from Barber in Birmingham, Alabama, Barber Motorsports Park. And it's another exciting battle on the road course. 2 weeks ago at Homestead, saw close racing, contact, and so much battling on the racetrack, and we're going to see more of the same, but in a different format. I'm Rick James with Liv Tyler by my side. Liv, this is going to be an amazing round of the championship.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this. Barber Motorsports Park, I'd say one of my top 3 road courses in America, definitely in the top 5. There's just such a fantastic flow to it that I find wonderful, and I cannot wait to see how these drivers tackle the 17 turns through here, especially that roller coaster section down at the bottom of the hill.
Bailey Thompson at her home track tonight, car 27 in the dying minutes of this practice session so far with a 109 flat. Last time we were here, Liv, was season 2. None of the drivers in our current field raced in that event. Drivers are expecting approximately a 3-stop race today. Would you agree?
Yeah. The fuel window between 11 and 14 laps, I'm expecting drivers to only go as far as 13. It'll take quite a bit of safety to get to that top end, but even so, with a 46-lap race, 110 miles on offer today, you're going to have to make 3 trips down pit lane, and with that, I'd imagine the alternate tyres would be preferred, but it is a fairly hot day today. Track temp up at 104 Fahrenheit with an air temp in the high 70s and a clear sky.
6 to the left, 11 to the right. What sort of difference is that going to make regarding tire wear? Is protecting the left side tires going to be a priority, or is it more than that when it comes to this racetrack?
There's definitely going to be an element to that. I think especially with how high speed a lot of these corners are, there's going to be an element of trying to balance it with the roll bar settings to not burn off the right rear too much, because you can easily spin through those long right-handers as you put so much load in. You'll see it here up through turns 2 and 3. The corner just keeps going and going and going. This is sometimes on the left sides, of course, but there's so much load in these tyres, you're going to have to be careful. I think the alternates will be preferred, but maybe not by that much. They'll wear out quite quickly.
Practice is no more. We're going to open up a 15-minute qualifying session here shortly. Lily Pelletier-Sharp, top of the tree, 4/10 quicker than the rest of the competition. Brooklyn's Nick Pressey in second, and Tucker Sawyer coming in third in that practice session. Liv, open qualifying beginning 15 minutes on the racetrack. And put yourself in the car. You're the driver. How many runs or flying laps, really good hardcore flying laps, do you expect to put in this session?
I think I'd maybe be hoping for 4. Try and split a session up like that, but with how difficult the traffic's going to be, there's a lot of sort of high-speed sweepers where a car on an outlap can just trip you up a little bit. I'm expecting to maybe schedule for 3 runs and to go for a double flyer in each. Just give yourself as many opportunities as possible to succeed, as we do have Lily Pelletier-Sharp, who I believe was fastest in our practice session. Didn't be the first one out. It's going to be out on the primary compound tyres. Reminder that the time you set your fastest lap on in this Q session will dictate what you start on in just 20 minutes time. So Lily maybe going for a strategy move early, or maybe just feeling out the track a little bit as she does run wide on this outlap.
The primary tire being the black-walled tire, the harder compound, and ultimately the slower compound on the race. However, drivers they must change their compounds at least. Oh, there goes Pelletier sharp, and she bins the car. She's going to have to... That car's done. Liv, that car is done. Now, regarding these qualifying rules, when it comes to this sim racing, the drivers must tow back to the pits?
If they tow back to the pits, then the session is done. If Lily can bring this car back, and bear in mind she's going to do it without impeding anyone, she's well off to the side of the racetrack here, but she's going to bring it back around for the crew to basically hop into a spare car in pit lane. Those are the rules that are given in this league, so this is going to take a lot of time off her chances, and she's going to have to be very careful to not fall into someone here. I believe this is George Ward on an outlap here, starting the qualifying session. We'll see if we can pick up. Let's go with Boss Lady Commentator coming through this chicane towards the end of the lap on what is going to be the first flying lap of her session. And let's have a look over the shoulder. 78 starts, of course, a lot of them finished in the top 10, but only 4 pole positions. You'd be hoping for number 5 here.
Coming out of that final corner, and it's an incredibly short front straight at Barber, trying to get that entrance to turn number 1 as wide as possible, touching the grass very wide out of turn number 1, almost into the sand in turn 2, and she will calmly curve around the opening corners. I think that's Nick Pressey that flies by as Carmen regains composure up the hill and down into that hairpin, and Liv Christina Ryan going around that same hairpin in a much more controlled fashion. What happened to the 96 of Sienna? It looks like she clipped the grass with the left side of the tires in turn 1.
Yeah, it's very much a commitment corner. You want to be ideally taking it in like 5th gear maybe, and just sort of throwing it in and hoping it sticks on the exit to then go obviously into that wide turn 2. I think she just carried a little bit too much speed on that one, and luckily did not suffer the same fate that Lily did, so she'll be able to stay rolling. Obviously that's the lap time gone. This is Christina Ryan, Season 2 champion, but has only really just picked this track up, so is still very much getting a feel for it on those primary compound tyres. Someone behind is going to dive into pit lane. I believe that is Jason Duckworth making a series debut.
Around the first few corners at Barber, Christina Ryan in the Renault Formula 1 liveried car will try to get top of the tree. Right now, the number 1 spot being occupied by Brooklyn's Nick Pressey, 1:08.11 on the clock, 1 second quicker than his closest rival, Colin McDonough. All the way back down to 5th, Liv, the number 9, Eli Sasek, now coming out of that final corner. We'll see what he puts up onto the tree.
It won't be an improvement from Sass. I just want to go on board with Christina there as we dropped down through that roller coaster. It's such a iconic piece of this racetrack. It's the flow that you find there is incredible. As we'll hop on board with the number 39 here and see what lap he's able to complete. Currently 3rd on the board, but with pressure behind, especially from George Ward, just a couple of hundredths back.
Rising out of the hill through the final very long right-hander, and that pit road entrance is going to be trouble for somebody today. And we did the absolute crazy thing last season in our Gen 4 series where we took the Gen 4 cars here, and it was an absolute disaster for some drivers. Not for Colin McDonough. Colin McDonough now still 3rd up on the charts, but he does improve 109.20, his personal best. And Liv, this track is getting quicker. Looking at about 6 or 7 drivers last time around, they all posted green times, their personal bests.
Yeah, Bryce Sosia, of course, Pressey's teammate, now 2nd on the board and less than 1/10 of a second behind that teammate for NPM. The drivers really getting a feel for it as they bed into this session. I don't know whether it's so much about track conditions improving over such a short place of time, but I think there's something to be said about drivers having that banker lapping and starting to find confidence in pushing. because that is really what is going to gain you lap time here. It's such a confident racetrack. You need to have just that boldness to stay on throttle that little bit longer, trust the downforce. And I think that's what we're seeing people start to pick up here, as Bryce Saucier is going to try and go to maybe jump onto pole position here.
Bryce Saucier has, I don't think he's come in since he actually entered the racetrack. Well, he comes in right now. So Pressy is on the racetrack. Saucier, McDonough, they're in. George Ward in the pits. Carmen Sienna currently running on the racetrack, 5th on the charts. Sean Kirby, the number 37 pilot, a rookie this season as well. And Liv, new leader at the top. Tucker Sawyer goes purple, 107.97.
Yeah, first driver into the 107. It's a great lap time for qualifying trim around here. We're just following on board with Pelletier Sharp, who has hopped into that backup car. And I believe this is her first flying lap of the session. We saw her at the top of the practice chart, so this could be something special. Could maybe rival that lap from the number 19.
The French pilot coming around the final right-left combination. She's going to put her foot down and fly across that straight. Lily Pelletier Sharp will now begin her time. Nope, there it goes. 4th on the charts, Liv, 108.80. She surpasses Colin McDonough, and she's 6/10 behind Bryce Saucier.
Yeah, not the lap that I think we were expecting from Sharp, but again, had to get that banker lap in, had to just make sure that she didn't start all the way down in 17th and have to climb through the whole field. Now she's got that on the board. She'll cool the tyres off here after the off track. And I think this next lap from her is where we're really going to see whether she has a chance to challenge number 19, who, as you mentioned, has gone fastest. I believe just finished off a cool-down lap, but on those alternates, I think you can probably get 2 runs in if you want to go push, cool, push. There's no push to pass in qualifying, so there's no worry about running out of fuel, as it were. Commentator's 5th fastest. Great time from the number 96.
Nick Pressy goes purple, 107.94. They trade blows, the 94 and the 19. 9 minutes and 13 seconds gone in qualifying. 5 and change remain. It's going to be a 15-minute session. Nick Pressy sits top by 3/100ths. And Liv, the track continues to get quicker. Pelletier Sharp and Sienna both went green last lap. Same for Craig Yor and Dakota Pierce.
Yeah, drivers definitely finding something extra in the track to get in towards those final 5 minutes. Just like I didn't find anything on that last lap. I'm pretty sure he was attempting to push lap there, but ultimately brought it down pit lane to get a fresh set of tyres. So we'll see whether he's able to find an answer to Nicholas Pressy, but within this top 4, there's 3 NPEM cars, 2 of Pressy's teammates, 3rd and 4th. Twitter Sawyer fighting alone for Ascent Racing at the top of the board with, I believe, Colin McDonough, the closest challenger, down in 6th place. Does Lily Pelletier Sharp have an improvement here to jump up the board? It is a jump in lap time, but it will not gain her a position. She just moves up right behind her teammate in the 07.
108.35 on the board. The French pilot, Lily Pelletier Sharp, 4th in the tree. Christina Ryan, she goes personal best as well, 109.49, good enough for 8th. Bailey Thompson at her home track, 10th on the tree right now, 4:10 and counting. Liv, Nick Pressy's on the alternate compound. Sawyer, Saucier, Sharp, all of the top 5. Matter of fact, it looks like possibly 2 drivers out of the top 10, all on alternate compounds.
It's just Christina currently, and then Bailey Thompson, fastest lap on the primary, but has now switched onto a set of alternates to try and jump up the board, as, in fact, Eli Sasek, I believe, knocked her out of that top 10 on her home track race, her first race of season 7.
108.41 for Sasek. He's 5th in the tree. Pressy still top with 3:20 and less than that now. 107.94, the time to beat. Sasek in the number 9, trying to get a little bit faster. He's only 7/100ths behind Pelletier Sharp. And Liv, as far as the top 5 goes, there's about a half-second difference between Sasek and Sienna. How much change do you expect in these next 2.5 minutes?
It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be very difficult for someone to get way up the order because there's just going to be so much traffic now. You're competing for every piece of racetrack. And it seems like these two teams, really, Ascent and Nicholas Pressy eMotorsports, have just worked something out with the tools and are feeling very comfortable. They're able to trade notes as Colin McDonough now goes 6th fastest ahead of Carmen, and it's now 3 of each of those two teams making up the top 6 on the timing boards. Those two, and the information sharing is so crucial that seems to be what could decide what happens here today.
Two minutes is all that's left to put your best time to nail your flag to the mast. Nick Pressy leading and does not improve. 107.96 his most recent time, only 2/100ths off of his most recent time. He's incredibly quick. Tucker Sawyer 2/10 behind him. Bryce Saucier 1/4 of a second behind that. Carmen Sienna sits 7/100ths behind Colin McDonough. And the fight for 16th is pretty hot. Evan Eisenman is just 1/100th behind Dakota Pierce. So there's close battles all over this racetrack. Fewer than 90 seconds remain in the qualifying session, Liv.
Yeah, Tucker Sawyer crosses the beam there, and are you kidding me? Beats Nicholas Pressy in the 4th decimal. Our overlays don't even go that far. But 107.937 is going to be enough just for the time being as we hit 60 seconds left in the session to take provisional pole from Nicholas Pressy. Does he have an answer? I think he ran wide at turn 1 this lap, so he's going to be starting his final attempt. 110. This is your only chance now to see Nicholas Pressy jump to the top. There's still the teammate of Bryce Saucier behind as well. But drama in the final minutes as they are tied on lap time, and Sawyer gets it on the 10,000th margin.
Pressy in the 94. Now has to make his final run. Louis Pelletier Sharp 2/10ths behind Pressy. And Saucier is a 1/100th, as I'm stammering through that, 1/100th away from the qualifying podium. 10 lonely seconds remain. Qualifying will be up, and we're going to talk to somebody. 107.77 now. Tucker Sawyer improves on his previous time, and it's a difference of 16/100ths. At the moment, Liv, Pressy's going to have to dig deep.
Yeah, checkered flag is out, and just 2 corners to go in Nicholas Pressy's qualifying session. Tucker Sawyer improves again, actually, to a 7.7. So the mark has been changed, but Pressy with a 7.6 is going to retake provisional pole position. Lily Pelletier Sharp has jumped up to 3rd ahead of Bryce Saucier, who could not find an improvement. But with the final attempt, both drivers at the top of the field improve, but it will be the 94, it looks like, who will start on the inside going towards turn number 1.
Fantastic qualifying session. What a way to finish that qualifying session. Liv, we're going to collect Nick so we can talk to him here in a moment, and we're going to get this party started in just a few minutes. You go grab Nick. We'll talk to this incredibly talented sim racer, and we'll get the race going.
All right, we have Nicholas Pressey standing by with Rick James.
Nick Pressey. What a lap. What a qualifying. Those last 3 minutes, Liv and I are sitting here watching what's going on. Watching Sawyer just tie you and then going down to the absolute thousandth of a second. And then Sawyer goes faster by a tenth. You go faster by another tenth. That last couple of attempts, how nervous were you watching the numbers climb higher and higher?
Yeah, my pulse is hitting about 170 there, I think. But
Nick Pressey, Rick James. There you go, buddy.
Oh, yeah, you got me.
I got you. How'd that qualifying lap go? What came out of you to bring out that time?
My pulse was hitting about 170 there, I'll admit, because I was nervous. I only have one pole in all of my champ car starts here, so, well, not here, but in general. So to get the pole, not only that, but on a road course and having to beat Tucker for it, it's always nerve-wracking. The team, that is to say, the team put a lot of exhaustive effort into practicing for this race, strategy-wise, pace-wise, everything. And to see that it paid off so well. I'm not, like, me being on the pole is one thing, but for all 4 cars to start in the first 3 rows, that's beautiful.
Fantastic lap, but now you've got to back it up with a win in this race. For you, what's going to be your biggest obstacle so you get the checkered flag first?
Incident limit. Admittedly, in our test sessions, I've had a hard time just trying to keep it on the track. And 12x is not a lot of X. Sorry, 16 is not a lot here, as I have found out surprisingly. So all I got to do is just not let the urge to go too fast get to me, like it has in the past. Tucker will be sort of my side all night, I expect. And I mean that in an endearing way, but those two things combined, it's by no means is my work done here tonight as far as getting the win.
Liv, you got to have some wise words and some tips for this guy so we can talk to him here on the top step when this race is over.
I've been on pole for road course before, so my main piece of advice is just be sensible on the start. Don't do anything silly. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you back up here in about an hour's time.
Thank you very much. It'll be a pleasure if I end up here. Unfortunately, winning also means I have to keep my word and get a haircut again.
Well,
hopefully you get that haircut coming soon, Nikki. We'll let you go to work so we can watch you race.
Thank you very much.
It'd be fitting at Barber to motivate that. Just
exactly right. Imagine Nick Pressey wins at Barber, and then he has to go tell this story to his barber when he's getting the lineup.
59th start for Nicholas Pressey in the Champ Car World Series. Just the second time he'd be rolling off from the pole position.
That's unbelievable. He's something else. I was telling you during that brief break. This kid is a freak. When it comes to those hot laps, those single, brilliant, glittering, golden laps, I think as Steve Matchett used to put him when in Formula One back in the early 2000s. Nick Pressey will stand up and be counted. I've seen him do it here. I've seen him do it in Thursday Night Thunder. I've seen him do it with the Indy cars in that small 6-race series, Winter Indy, we ran last season. Nick Pressey, when he puts his mind to those golden laps, he will put in a flyer. Now, he needs to exercise patience so he ends up on the top step of the podium. We've got another 30 seconds left in this warm-up here, and we're going to go to our starting grid, Liv. But for you, other than Nick Pressey, we see he's going to be starting next to Tucker Sawyer, but who's going to be the number one here? Who's going to be the number one rival for Pressey?
I think Pelletier Sharp. It's always a bit of a dark horse. Can be a bit of a dark about feathers sometimes, but has some great pace and is going to want to go for this win against her teammate. Of course, another teammate, Bryce Sosa, alongside on row 2, and then Eli Sasek and NPM driver Colin McDonough, my mistake, will start on the outside of row number 3.
Checkered flag waves at practice. Bailey Thompson at her home track next to Carmen Sienna in the 96, looking to do better than that 4th row. Christina Ryan next to Big Pink George Ward. They round out that 5th round. We will have a standing start at Barber with Jason Duckworth, Mitch Semedo in that 6th row, populating the racetrack. Craig Yore, the Aussie rookie, and Dakota Pierce in the red-winged purple car. Remember, he's a teammate with Big Pink George Ward. 15th and 16th, Mo Perry, Evan Eisenman. And then that's going to do it for our starting grid at Barber. Drivers patiently waiting for the lights, waiting for just all this excitement. Oh, that run down to turn 1 is going to be just brilliant. 46 laps is going to be the scheduled distance tonight. You can taste the anticipation. Drivers building the revs. The green flag is out, and we are racing at Barber. The rundown into turn number 1. Brooklyn's Nick Pressey will lead the way. Lily Pelletier, Sharp, Tucker Sawyer side by side through that first set of long sweeping carousel turns. Saucier, McDonough, Sasek, Sienna, Big Pink, George Ward, Chris Ryan, Sean Kirby, 8th, 9th, 10th. Through the hairpin, Liv, it's Pressey, Sawyer, Pelletier, Sharp.
Yeah, no change at the front of the field. Ultimately, though, Sharp went for a move through 1 and 2. The track just switches back against you quite awkwardly, and as they sort of concertina down this roller coaster section. Biggest mover so far is Christina Ryan, one of just a couple of drivers to be on the primary compound tyre here, and had a great start seemingly. Got up to 7th place already, ahead of Carmen Sienna and George Ward, especially Bailey Thompson with a really weak start, unfortunately, down to 13th, and hopefully is unwounded in that car. It looks like all the win pieces still intact for the number 27, but a lot of work to do for the hometown hero.
Tucker Sawyer on attack. Check this out in turn number 1, Liv. That 94, his lead, not as big as it used to be. Pelletier Sharp now 6/10 behind them as well. If I'm Sawyer, Liv, I'm going to sit there and just keep the pressure on Pressey. I don't think there's a need to risk anything with the tires still relatively fresh, especially both of them being on the softer red compound.
Yeah, Nicholas Pressey using a little bit of push to pass here from the lead out of the hairpin just to defend that position. The top 4 with quite a big breakaway already, with Eli Sasset struggling to hold on to Bryce Saucier. But it looks like Pressey on the defensive a little bit here. Tucker Sawyer still get to use that extra 60 horsepower, willing to sit behind for just a little bit longer and eye up this move to try and attack it in the optimal place. I think the hairpin is likely to be the hunting ground for tonight's race.
2 seconds between 4th and 5th. Well, now 1.5 seconds with the changing flow of the racetrack, and a lot less between Pressey and Sawyer. While these two are 3/10 apart, Carmen Sienna now just 1/10 off of Christina Ryan, and those two ladies will do battle in the first corner. Pelletier Sharp goes purple, 108.84. Liv, Nick Pressey, he's all over the track now. Sawyer almost shaking him up a bit.
Yeah, that battle between Sienna and Ryan we want to watch, with Carmen being on the softer tyres, but they could fall off as the run goes on at the front of the field. Everyone on equal strategy. It's all going to come down to who has the best control of the race car. And Pressey, as much being put under pressure, he's managed to fend off the number 19 for the time being. No changes in the top 6 positions from the race start. Although Sasek and McDonough now in a very tense fight for best of the rest of the top 4. Continue to streak away.
Carmen Sienna hopping over some curbs and almost flying off the racetrack. She's holding off Christina Ryan, who's up 2 places from where she started. And then Big Pink George Ward trying to press down on Chris Ryan and shake her up out of that first corner. Down that straight, Carmen Sienna looks like she's going to go to the inside and relinquish those 2 positions.
As there's a change for the lead here, Tucker Sawyer takes advantage of Nicholas Pressey running wide through turn number 2, and just like that, waits for the opportunity and pounces to give the lead to the Ascent Racing driver. They're 2, 3, 4, and 6 for Nicholas Pressey in Motorsports, but they don't have the most important position. Tucker Sawyer now leads the race.
And Pressey now has, if I'm thinking I'm Nick Pressey, Liv, I have the opportunity now to keep the pressure on Tucker Sawyer and almost force the same mistake. Now, it's very hard to force a mistake out of Tucker Sawyer. Is it impossible? No, but Nick Pressey still has to use up the precious life on his Reds to hunt down the 19 car, and come to think of it now, Lily Pelletier-Sharp actually is in a position to pass him.
Yeah, and there is a bit of a mistake there into turn 16 from Tucker Sawyer. Will bunch the field back up. We've got an incident at the back of the field. Craig Yor, it looks like, has had a crash coming through this sweeper section. Actually gotten some help from Bailey Thompson, it looks like, and then has collected another car. I believe that may have been Mo Perry, who could be carrying damage now. Awkward incident there through one of the fastest parts of the racetrack. That'll put Craig Yor, I believe a debutant, down to pit lane and taking that fast trap out earlier than he would have hoped.
That gorgeous Victoria Bitter machine slamming into the wall, and he's going to need a VB or two to move on from that. He's going to rejoin the racetrack here in 17th. At the front, Tucker Sawyer continues to lead, and Lily Pelletier-Sharp now in 4th. Did she fall off the racetrack in car 71? She looks to have had some issues there.
Just a little bit too aggressive into the roller coaster there. Tried to carry too much speed and couldn't get it turned in.
Yeah, exactly right. No, you're exactly right. And then, of course, when you come back off the racetrack, you've got that sand, you've got all that stuff from the grass and other crap on your tires, and you've got to shake that off. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as soon as you come back onto the racetrack, those tires are cooled down, and because you have so much stuff on them, you're more liable to spin out the race car. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the debris as well that's been thrown out. It's a problem for everyone else behind you as you rejoin. It's why iRacing in the most recent update added that debris caution flag, those red and yellow stripes that you often see in motorbike racing. Has been added for situations just like this. And if we go on board with Pelletier-Sharp again, coming down through the roller coaster, you'll see on the exit that patch of gravel on the outside line. That is what got dropped last lap by the 71. And it'll take a few laps for drivers to go through that and clear it out the way onto the racing line. But an extra challenge to be dealt with for everyone else in this race, as that relieves the pressure from the 94, who is continuing to put the press on Tucker Sawyer for the lead of the race.
3/10 between them, 3/10 between 6th and 7th. McDonough and Ward. Pressey goes purple, 108.50. Fastest lap so far. Liv, we were talking earlier, and I think in some notes you took down, you were looking at approximately 12 to 14 laps on a pit cycle, which makes this approximately a 3 to 4 stop race, depending on how far you're going to rate, depending on how far you're going to go on fuel. Yeah. For Nick Pressey, he just went purple, so his tires are screaming for a pit stop even sooner than that.
I'm not too sure. That the series runs a very short fuel tank here, 55%, or I believe just about 10 gallons. So you're not necessarily using up the tires to the same extent that you would across a longer stint. You really can, in good conditions, push a lot on these alternates. Now, whether Pressey's over-pushing in these conditions remains to be seen, but he's got the draft of Sawyer ahead. He's been using a little bit of push-to-pass so far in this race. I can definitely see him driving within his limits and still being able to throw down times toward the 108s even. Or into the 108s, I should say.
Liv, let's keep an eye on these two. I want to take a look at 6th through 8th. They are tenths away from each other. They've concertinaed up into what is a 3-way fight for 6th. Even if you throw in Eli Sasek, it's a 4-way fight for 5th. How about Carmen Sienna to the inside of Big Pink? George Ward will defend from Sienna's attack, but he's got his foot down and he is out of there. Liv, it's 4 tenths at the front, but these 4 here are really exciting to watch right before the pit stops.
Yeah, and of course,
Sienna.
At the front of this train is those teammates for the battle for 1 and 2. They sort of fell off the pack and have bunched everyone up into this fight. You got 4 cars here, and then Christina Ryan fending off Jason Duckworth. She's on the primary compound tyres there, so that's why she's fallen back about 4 seconds, but I would expect to see her charge back up through the field as she switches onto the alternates. This is just a really tense battle, and we saw Sienna make the attack. It looks like Colin McDonough going very defensive into turn 1, or maybe having a slowdown picked up. He actually gets out of the way of both of those drivers and falls all the way down from 6th to 8th. And now Carmen Sienna is going to try and get past George Ward and use that clean air that has appeared with about a 1.7 second gap up to Eli Sasek.
Half a tenth at the front. Big Pink 4 tenths ahead of Sienna. Duckworth in the number 73 Castrol machine, chasing down Christina Ryan, up 1 place from where she started, and Duckworth holding on strong to the back end of that top 10. 9 laps underway of the scheduled 46. It goes Sawyer, Pressy, Saucier. Now, so far, I'm looking at drivers like Duckworth, Liv. I'm looking at Colin McDonough, drivers that are kind of mid-pack and seeing not a lot of improvement. Meanwhile, George Ward up 3 places, Mo Perry up 4 places. These are drivers that I don't think they're making a lot of noise now, but it's almost like they're playing the long game to survive to the end.
Yeah, George Ward especially has been impressive in this one. Started up inside the top 10 already, and then gains 3 positions on top of that. Is currently leading this train towards the clean air of Eli Sasek. Got some pressure from Carmen Sienna, who it looks like he's going to go for another move down into the hairpin. We've seen this one before, and once again, Ward just has the drive off the corner to defend the move and keep Carmen Sienna behind. They've both used a little bit of push to pass to make this happen, but nowhere near 1/5. We'll quickly show you what those numbers look like. Everyone very much on budget right now, and using up just about 30 seconds at most for George Ward, as he'll burn a couple more seconds to defend from Carmen and close back in on Eli Sasek. That gap is now just 5 tenths of a second from the mistake from the car ahead.
1.5 seconds at the front. Sasek now 6 tenths, getting smaller between himself. Big Pink in the distance. Carmen Sienna in car 96 wants to play 2. JD sitting in 10th. Jason Duckworth trying to catch up closer to Christina Ryan. She stays strong in 9th. 11 of the 46 underway. And Liv, if you take a look at Sasek, started in 5th, stayed in 5th. He's consistent. Same with George Ward. He's consistent. But I just saw Christina Ryan. She went 1:10.36. She went green. But JD, Jason Duckworth, now to her inside. And it's the same song, second verse for George Ward, but not for Jason Duckworth, Liv, because he took the inside line out of the hairpin, flying through this roller coaster section almost a bit too hot. You just saw that, didn't you? You saw all the speed he carried in there, but he pulled off the pass.
Yeah, and I think this is a driver who's saved some life in those alternates to make that move late in the stint, and you said you had to work for it to get around the Season 2 champion. But rather than try to force the move every corner, maybe, and burn up the tyres, decided to play it cool for a little bit so that when the move was open, the tyres were underneath him to be able to pull that off. It's a great opportunity, and again, I expect Christina to answer back once she makes her pit stop onto the alternates, which could come as soon as this lap for the field. But great on debut from Duckworth in the 73, now up 3 positions, and doing a great job in that Castrol machine to make a name for himself early.
Drivers are spreading out right before this pit stop cycle, aren't they? We're seeing a close battle between George Ward and Carmen Sienna. They stay close together. Sasek is 8/10 in front of Ward now. And it's almost like drivers are taking that breath, taking that anticipation to just focus a bit more on hitting your marks. And also, the tires are used up as well. So for me, Liv, I'm thinking, when our driver's going to come in? How about right now? Nick Pressey decides to come in. He's going to come in from second. That's going to put Tucker Sawyer on an island. We're in it now. Pit stop cycles have begun.
Yeah, but only Pressey comes in this time, maybe going for an undercut, or maybe wasn't quite saving the fuel that we knew would be possible to save. What's going to be key to watch for Pressey now is he's going to get rolling from his pit box and onto a set of primary compound tires now. Where is he going to come out in the way of traffic? He's timed this really well, actually. Comes out between Sean Kirby and Christina Reiner, has about 4 seconds to work with on this outlap. So we can focus solely on getting the tires up to temperature and being ready to attack Tucker Sawyer once he comes out of the pits. Great strategic call to use that pocket of clean air for Nicholas Pressey, as Carmen Sienna still trying to find a way around George Ward. Has tried the hairpin a couple of times, but maybe needs to find another option. Not into there, it's too fast. And I think this entire train could be on the way into the pit lane here. Tucker Sawyer already making that call.
Sawyer's in, Pelletier Sharp is in, Big Pink stays out. Sasek and Sienna also in, so this is going to put Bryce Saucier at the top. George Ward is going to move into the second position, 14 laps into our 46-lap contest. And just before the pit stop, Liv, I saw Eli Sasek went green, his personal best. Jason Duckworth also went green. He just elevated himself into the third position. Looking at Craig Yor, the rookie, he's also with a personal best as well. That Victoria Bitter machine, 110.74. And Liv, you think Saucier's playing the long game here? I mean, how far do you expect him to go on fuel? He's on reds.
It'll be this lap, but there's a mistake there from Carmen Sienna, it looks like, on the way out of pit lane. I am going to have to see what's happened there, because that was not what I expected to catch on the replay. But if we go on board with Carmen.
Ohio pilot. Oh, look at that, Liv. She does skid. It's almost like she gave it way too much gas coming out of the pits, and she's damaged the left front. She's missing one half of her wing, isn't she?
Yeah, so obviously on the pit limiter there on the way down pit lane, and I'm guessing was just fully on the power, expecting it to roll on cleanly once she dropped the limiter, but it's not like when you roll out of your pit box, the auto clutch isn't doing anything for you at that point. And you can see she's struggling to keep that car on the race. She'll have to make an unscheduled stop here to fix that damage. And that will put her potentially a lap down here, as just confirming that she is going to peel into pit lane. George Ward and Christina Ryan have extended to a 15th lap, incredibly. But Tucker Sawyer has made the pit stop, come out onto the primary compound tires, and has managed to hold a 6-second lead to Nicholas Pressey. I'm not quite sure how she's managed that one. So how he's managed that one is I looked over, and Carmen Sienna has picked up a meatball flag on the way into pit lane, it seems like. Has a fast pair to fix that one, of course.
7/10 and counting the gap now. Lily Pelletier Sharp breaking out over Bryce Saucier. Big Pink is in. George Ward decides it's finally time. So that leaves Chris Ryan as the only driver to pit. And she is really going for the long haul, Liv. Is she's coming in? Well, never mind. She's not going for the long haul anymore. She is in. So that's going to put Tucker Sawyer at the front. Nick Pressey, Liv, you said it earlier, he's 7 seconds behind Tucker Sawyer. That tells me one thing. The attack and the exit out of pit road were wildly different for both of these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, the primary compound tires are difficult to warm up. We were expecting Tucker Sawyer to extend the lead a little bit on the way through the overcut. But what's surprising is that last time by, Tucker Sawyer, let's pull this up actually, a 9-0 on the first flying lap on that set of primary compound tyres. That is not what anyone was expecting, to be able to switch the tyres on that quickly. Nicholas Presti, second flying lap on the tyres, 1.7 seconds off. So something in the warm-up for Tucker Sawyer, maybe on the adjustments that you can make on the outlap on the roll bars, working so well for Tucker, and he is now in command of this race at the front of the field.
Are you saying it's a skill issue?
No, I'm saying it's an incredible amount of skill from the 19. There's a common thing you can do where the car just won't want to turn when you get onto a fresh set of primary compound tyres, and the way to account for that is often to soften the front roll bar by a click or two on the outlap. So it just lets the car sort of go to the tyre a little bit, and then once it's warm, you can stiffen it back up for that optimal turning performance, and you can't get the best of both worlds. It's a great thing about having those adjustments available at the driver's fingertips.
I'm going to tell Nick Prissy it's a skill issue. He's currently 7 seconds and counting off of Tucker Sawyer, but of course I'm picking on him. Nick Pressey is so far from being finished, and we've seen Tucker Sawyer make mistakes. We've seen Nick Pressey make mistakes. It is entirely possible that, you know, Tucker Sawyer slips up and Pressey's right behind him as well. He has to keep pushing. He has no other choice. Further on back, we're what, 4 tenths, fewer than 5 tenths between Bryce Saucier, Eli Sasek. This is for 4th right now. Sasek on the reds, Saucier, he's on the blacks, so Eli has to make that move or he's going to lose all the life in these red tires.
Yeah, but remember, these two are not teammates. It's Sawyer and Sasek for Ascent Racing in this top 6. Everyone else for Nicholas Pressey Motorsports. This is a battle not just for Bryce, but also for Pelletier Sharp 4 seconds up the road, who Sasek is on equal tyres to. And so the 07 is not going to be rolling over anytime soon. This is a strategy not just for his own race, but for the entire NPM outfit. As an instant for Georgia Ward, it looks like. We'll see what has happened to number 36, Big Pink.
On his 17th lap of competition, looks like he just went wide. Oh, he went wide. He touched grass, and this is why you stay inside and play your video games. He touched grass, and he went for a spin. And he's going to get back on track. Luckily, he didn't hit anything, Liv, but it could have gone so much worse for Ward. The way he saved that car was pretty special. I'm glad that he didn't wreck the race car. He's back, he's moving, but we talked about it earlier. When you fall off the track like that, the tires cool down, you get stuff on them, grass, sand, whatever other garbage, and the car is almost like skating out there.
I think it's worse in that situation, which is that he obviously caught that off-track surface, but then the majority of the slide was on the racetrack, and that is going to flash heat the surface of the tire to an almost undrivable level. It's why he had so much trouble rolling back, going again after the slide. Luckily, no flat spots in iRacing, but even so, that is not comfortable to drive on after a mistake like that.
Still 4 tenths between them, and it's almost like a mutual relationship between them now. They're going to be glued together for the rest of the afternoon. I'm really excited to see what's going to come of these two. And then that's either Craig Yor? No, that is Craig Yor, the Aussie in the Victoria Bitter Machine. He's just minding his own business there while we watch Bryce Saucier go through the final right-hander. This is such a difficult corner, Liv, because it's a long right-hander that you can't get a rhythm for. You're going uphill. The exit of the corner is blind. And then after this incredibly short straight where you get no break at all, you're into a descending, banked, downhill left, uphill right. This is a really quirky track, but sometimes you drive it and you think, who the hell designed this place?
Yeah, and then of course you look to the outside of the hairpin, you see a giant spider sculpture, and that leaves you more questions than answers. There's of course, the mannequin that's often dangling from a bridge up here in the modern version that fell onto the track during the during the race last year. This is a pet project of a millionaire in Alabama, essentially. And with how the track is designed, you really feel it. It is a driver's track, and the elevation change from corner to corner is fantastic. But it's such a challenge to nail lap after lap. There's no break here, and it's just a roller coaster from start to finish.
So there's steel sculptures all over this place. There's steel spiders, multiple steel spiders, and dragonflies by a guy called Bill Secunda. There's a couple of lions. There's an ancient Greek Sisyphus figure pushing a boulder as well. Then the 5 and 6 complex, the hairpin as we've been referring it to, called Charlotte's Web because of the giant spider that sits in the infield out there. And of course, there is the mannequin. I forget what her name was. I think it was Georgia. Maybe I'm making it up. I have no idea. Georgina. There it is. Yeah, no, she falls off the scaffolding, and I think Scott McLaughlin run her over in that race and then end up holding her hand after winning the race?
Someone clipped her hand that was dangling just very lightly onto the racing surface. Eli Sasek is going to try and steal 4th position here from Bryce Sosa, but can't find anything as they go into this up and down final complex. The real goal here is to pressure a mistake from the car ahead through this final corner to give yourself a run and to get them off balance into turn number 1. We saw that's where the pass for the lead happened for Trota Sawyer with a mistake from Nicholas Pressey, and it's kind of the best way to set someone up is to just get them offline and it compromise the next 3 or 4 corners.
Sasek trying to set him up for Charlotte's Web, the hairpin, and just that downhill curve in there, and he's just so far behind. And when you drive the inside line out of the hairpin, the driver in front, provided that they have the exit on the outside, goes so much further. I was just looking at Carmen Sienna Liv. She's gone around. The rear wing is gone just on the front straight as well. The 96 is in trouble, and I kept my eye on her because she just put in her personal best, 1:08.96. And she's gone around again, this time in turn 1, right in front of traffic, and she's just going to jump to the pits. She knows she can't make it around with a rear wing, and she won't force the issue. Out of that final corner, though, a much closer battle now. Here comes Sasek on the outside into turn number 1. Liv, he's got him. Down into turn number 1. Eli's been waiting for that one. He's been waiting, and now he's in 4th, 5 seconds off of the podium.
So I was trying to work out who that was that was slow down the front stretch with a missing wheel. I think maybe a very
George
similar
Ward,
incident.
like?
No, it wasn't George Ward. I thought at first it was
Must
Big
have been.
Pink, but I think it might
Dakota
have been
Pierce.
Dakota Pierce, who was in a very similar looking livery.
Yep, identical
they're
car.
now
You're
down.
exactly right.
Or, yeah, just limping it back around here, but has a long way to go to pit lane with just 3 wheels. This is going to be very difficult with no outside front tire. And you see all the way down to about 20 miles an hour. Just gotta be careful to not impede as that happens. But yeah, as we were watching that battle along the front stretch and all of the debris that's picked up there next to the wall, Eli Sasek has got the move done, but it's taken most of this second stint. And so the question is, how long does he have to try and run forward and build a gap to Bryce Sosa? There's actually the number 07 pits here and gets off those primary compound tires. Thinks he can make it maybe on 2 sets of volts to the end.
Well, Sosier's run an average of, 12 laps now? He's in on lap number 24, so it is an average of 12 laps on one stint. So he's run a relatively short stint on the hard compound that's meant to go the distance. He's going to go on red tires now and try and make up for the deficit that he's put himself in, but he's capable, and he's one of the drivers that you should never sleep on. George Ward now rising out of turn number 1. He sits in 8th, 4/10 ahead of Mitch Semedo and Big Bryce in the 07 on red tires. Mitch last pitted on lap 12. Bryce last pitted 5 seconds ago, and he's going to make really light work of Mitch Semedo. Big Pink is next on his list. Liv.
Yeah, smart move there from the number 8. Bryce was going to find a way around sooner rather than later. I think the strategy here from Semedo is just to make that move easy on Bryce and hope that George Ward has more trouble letting by that faster car to try and close in on that gap. You've got to almost treat it like a multi-class encounter when you've got drivers on another strategy that you know you're not based on position. As Bryce, not quite getting the tyres up to temperature though, is going to run wide. And I think this is not going to help Semedo, who has now dropped back about 2 seconds from George Ward ahead, who, to be fair, is on the late stint primaries and is looking pretty quick indeed.
8/10 between Bryce and Mitch, 9th and 10th respectively. Tucker Sawyer still at the top of the tree, 6 seconds the gap between him and Nick Pressey, who just decided to relinquish his racetrack duties and will now turn them into pit lane duties. We'll see if he goes from the hard to the soft compound for that quicker option. Sasek, a great deal behind him. Sasek will stay out. He will stay out, and he will take over that second position as well. Big Pink George Ward, only half a second ahead of Bryce Saucier, and he's forcing Bryce to use those reds, Liv.
Yeah, this is the downside of going for that undercut. He wanted to get onto the faster compound of tyre, and it's definitely a sensible call, but the problem is he's still running at primary pace right now because he's got a car on primaries ahead of him that he's got to maneuver his way around. Really pale to chase sharp, gains 6th position as Colin McDonough pulls into the pit lane. And the pit cycle well and truly underway, but right now Tucker Sawyer still leads with 23 seconds over Eli Sasek and 30 from Pressey, who has made that extra pit stop.
I'm doing the quick math here. Some of these drivers will absolutely have to do 4 stops at the rate that they're going. They can go 15 laps on fuel, but they're not helping themselves by short pitting so often. And as the track gets quicker, you can see there's a massive gulf in class here. Last time around, Tucker Sawyer, 110. And then you have drivers that we're looking at, for example, Mo Perry, 111.96. Now, that's no slight on Mo Perry, but amongst the top 10, even amongst the top 4, Liv, there's a huge cut between the best and the rest. And right now, it looks like it's top 4, top 5.
Absolutely. They've just been fantastic all race long. I am surprised to see that Pressey has gone for another set of primary compound tyres. Maybe finding a little bit more performance in those black sidewall harder compound, but we've seen how good the alternates have been even late into a stint for some of these drivers and how much it's been Haston, especially his teammate here, who still, has the pace and the tyres, but is still trying to get around George Ward. It's going to be interesting to see whether Tucker Sawyer, now he's in pit lane, is going to match that strategy or whether he's going to go for a set of alternates as Bryce Saucier goes deep into Charlotte's Web and nearly collects the back of George Ward. The number 36, remember, had that very long stop early on, and so is not scheduled to pit anytime soon. So this could be a big hindrance for the 07.
I think he's forcing the issue. I mean, look, but take a look. Take a look at the dive that he put into the corner. I genuinely think he's forcing the issue. He's using up these reds, and it could cost him. It genuinely could cost him a chance at a podium or even a top 5, don't you think? Or maybe I'm just being aggressive with that thought process, but seeing him come in on lap 24, it's an average of a 12-lap stint, going on reds again, and really using them all up to get around 7th place on a different pit cycle. Finally, he's going to get around to the inside, and they almost make contact rising through the hill. But Liv, he's still not done. He's on the outside shredding the good life out of those soft red tires, up the hill side by side, almost onto the grass, down into the hairpin. Big Pink playing the hard D going through Charlotte's Web. The 07 on the red tires tries to go wide on the 36. George Ward again. He has made the outside his bread and butter all race long. Twice on Sienna, once on the 07 who goes wide through the roller coaster, and Big Pink moves on and he peels away from the 07, and Saucier Liv may have just thrown away a top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go side by side all the way through turn 1 down into the roller coaster and then make it stick through there. There was just a little bit of contact in line between the two of them, hopefully superficial only for Bryce Saucier, but George Ward's been using push pass. He wants this track position. He knows how important it can be to keep that train of cars behind. Now behind as well is Eli Sassett, who's going to have to try and work through here. And ultimately, Taylor Shea Sharp is 6 seconds up the road. Christina Ryan, who is yet to make a stop, is up in 3rd. And Tucker Sawyer now 26 seconds clear of Bryce Saucier, but we're talking about this call, has gone on to another set of primary compound tyres, and Nicholas Pressey has closed in by about a second in that cycle.
6 seconds still the gap, though. Sawyer has nothing to lose by going on the primary, because with 24 laps led so far, he's led the majority of this race. And if things continue the way that they are, he's going to be 6 seconds, maybe more ahead. And that's nothing against the rest of the competition, but Sawyer's just had this race in the bag since that first pit stop cycle. And the 07 of Bryce Saucier almost going off again, Liv. I think it's unraveling for him quite the opposite to the race leader. Saucier struggling to hold on to that 6th position. Sasek on the attack.
And ultimately, this is just putting so much pressure onto the drivers behind. Saucier and Sasser are going to be in a fight very shortly indeed. And you can't say George Ward's done anything wrong here. He's just been focusing on his race, keeping hold of his track position. He's used a fair amount of push to pass, but he's still got a more than half of it remaining as we hit the 2/3 point of the race. George Ward, in fact, might be trying to set up for a 2-stop strategy here, which we didn't think was going to be viable. And in that case, this is a direct battle with Bryce Saucier for end race position. George Ward, if he pits this lap, will have to go 16 on the final stint. It seems unthinkable, but we didn't have 15 on our radar before the race started either. We'll see what the 36 can do here, and whether he saved fuel in that stint. He's only managed to make it this far, but he might have a chance on a win in a prayer here to pull a strategy gamble towards the end of the race.
He's got enough fuel to go to the end. He's good. He's just, will he have the
close.
But will he have the tires is going to be the thing. And I mean, if we come to the end of the race again, if the 07 of Saucier has that opportunity again on Ward, you better believe it's going to be a more aggressive move this time. But you're right, George didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, he left plenty of room. He was just on a slower compound. It's his right to defend the position. It's not like they're 6 laps apart. Ward's going to come out of the pits. Looking at Saucier and Sasek, they're now 4/10 apart through the roller coaster. Sasek's on the reds, Saucier also on the reds, but obviously much more worn.
Yeah, and you saw again the outside line through turn 5 and 6 is just that strong ultimately. Saucier able to defend the attack, but now Eli Sasek under pressure down towards the end of the lap, forces Saucier narrow through the back half of that chicane, and they are going to be nose to tail. Eli Sasek 4 laps fresher on the tyres, has bucket loads more pushed past to use as well. Now is the time to try and make it happen. Can he get the move done that Saucier couldn't? He's to be patient this time. Slot through the opening sequence and maybe try and focus on the launch out of turn 3 and down towards the hairpin.
I think Saucier's going to go off the track again. Genuinely, coming out of 14, there it is. There it is. That Saucier has gone off the track with his left side tires coming out of that 1, 2, 3 complex. He's also gone off the track coming out of 14A. There's a very small crest before the long right-hander. He's really put his right sides out on the track as well, and it's almost cost him. You can almost see smoke coming out of that 07 going down through the carousel. Look, Liv, I'm not a sim. I am not good enough to do what Bryce Saucier is doing right now. It takes genuine skill. By my eye, I still think he's pushing the car too hard.
Yeah, and let's not forget, his teammate Pressy mentioned before the race how tricky it was going to be to avoid the ire of the race stewards for those off-track excursions. We're not sure whether those 2 tire dips are necessarily counting as off-tracks for that count, but Bryce might be getting close to that 16 number, and we still have 14 laps to go in this race as Sasuke is going to continue to try and pick a way through. I'd say the pit window is wide open for that final stop if you can find a spot out of traffic to make that call into pit lane. That's what caught out Saucier, but it's what Pressy did so expertly in the first stint. He took that pit stop a little bit early and found some clean track to work with.
I'll tell you what, Saucier has gone off the track 5 times in today's race, Sasuke 13. So while we are picking on Bryce Saucier for going off the track twice in quick succession, I don't think it's counting as off-track incidents for Bryce. However, off-track incident or not, all it takes is one mistake of dipping your tires too far into the grass to say goodnight. While it's quick on the red tires, I wouldn't recommend it. They're going to go through this final complex here, and I think they might be catching up to traffic. Big Pink running in 8th, half a second ahead of Christina Ryan. They're both up 1 position so far. Liv, have you seen Mo Perry? He's up 6 places from where he started in 11th. He last pitted only 4 laps ago.
Yeah, Mo Perry on the same strategy here actually as Ward and Ryan, who had a quick position swap just there. I'm wondering whether that was Christina trying to get into the slipstream to do a little bit more fuel saving. It looks like we are going to catch some traffic, and this is going to be tricky. This is, I believe, Dakota Pierce up in front, and that's Mo Perry that they've just flown past as well, getting well and truly out of the way.
07 still facing hard pressure. Liv, Sasuke is right behind. That's the 07 of Saucier. That's our closest battle right now. It looks like he's lined him up. Sasuke could make the move, and he's not going to force the issue. But this lap traffic might cause a problem for Saucier, Sasuke, and the rest.
And actually,
nope, Saucier's in.
Saucier makes the call that he got caught up by traffic last time, but he's going to make the gamble this time by that whatever he finds cannot be as bad as that lap traffic. Will follow on board with Eli Sasser to see what he can do in clearing. I'm not quite sure which car that is, but I think it might be 37 of Sean Kirby, who is actually in quite a close fight with Evan Eisenman, just a few seconds behind. Now the position swap will happen down into turn 5, but the question is, did that opening sector hold up Sasser enough that Bryce Saucier can pull off that undercut and come out still ahead of the number 9?
He's out on reds in that 7th position. Sasuke still on reds, but again, he has to pit. We're coming up to what will be 11 laps to go in this 3rd round of competition. If you just tuned in, it's been clean and green since we started. A lot of exciting racing. This is round number 3 in our Champ Car series, part of ABN. And Liv, it has been Tucker Sawyer's race since the drop. It's an 8-second gap now. Both drivers in the top 2 pitted on lap 27 and 25 respectively. Here comes what's going to be the majority of final pit stops. Lily Pelletier-Sharp is in, and the rest of the top 5 still has to pit.
Yeah, the NPM looking for those earlier pit stops, trying to find some strategy on the undercut. Pelletier going for the alternate tire in this stop, and so should have some great performance on the way in. Eli Sasser, now he's cleared that traffic, is under no pressure to make an early call. And he can run the tank out where you're going to be, remember, lighter on fuel. You're going to be running a little bit faster, and then for that final stop, it'll be just a splash. And probably a set, but you could try and take this last stop fuel only with how short it could be for some of these drivers. Sharp is region about 5 seconds ahead of Saucer here.
Pressie's in. Sassek's out. Sawyer still has to pit. McDonough, Duckworth, JD. How about Jason Duckworth? Huh? Up to 5th, 7 places up so far. Again, still has a pit stop on the horizon, but not a bad run for his debut this season. Lily Pelletier Sharp is off. Car 71 running 6th, and she's already made her stop. She pitted on lap 34, so this is not where she wanted to be. Right after her stint. Yeah, it's been up and down, a literal and figurative roller coaster for her all race long, and we hope the French pilot is going to keep fighting to the end. Semato's in, Eisenman is in, and all eyes on the top 3.
Yeah, Sharp here did fall behind Sosa, but it looks like has an undamaged car and can continue to fight in this race. At the front of the field, Nicholas Pressey has made that final stop and is still holding on to 3rd place. Gap is 33 seconds to Tucker Sawyer. That is not how long the pit stop takes here. The question is going to be about Eli Sasek, who is still out on the racetrack and is going to continue for a 10th lap in this stint. Just 8 laps to go, or 9 laps to go at the line here. And the gap between him and Bryce Sosa, about 25 seconds. That could be marginal. That's going to be a one to watch as we get to the end of the race. The other big question mark, can George Ward and Christina Ryan make it on fuel to the end, or will they have to take that splash and dash? They've done 2 15-lap stints to open this race, but they'll need to go 1 lap longer to make it to the checker here.
Duckworth is in, Kirby is in. They make their final pit stops of the evening. Big Pink George Ward now up to the 7th position. Saucier went green, 109.12 on those red tires. He's into the top 5, and he last pitted on lap 34. He's about 11 seconds off of 4th and a long way to go. So it seems like drivers are settled now for their final run. Seven laps to go this time by. Eli Sasek has decided to come in. Nick Pressey will take over the 2nd position. Colin McDonough will move into the bronze medal slot with Bryce Saucier 10 seconds adrift. George Ward, Chris Ryan battling for 7th and 8th, both up 2 places from where they started, and they are stretching the fuel. Liv, the battle for 3rd, though, is going to be huge between Sasek and McDonough.
Yeah, not just Sasek and McDonough, but also Bryce Sosa, remember, who pit a few laps ago. They're going to be on pit exit here. It looks like Eli Sasek is going to be side by side with a laps car here, potentially. And that is going to be Bryce Sosa a couple of seconds up the road, streaking through. And now Lily Pelletier Sharp is also going to get past Eli Sasek. Remember that mistake that was made by the 71, costing her a spot, and now Sasek's going to try and fight through on those fresh tires.
What a pass.
But he's gone a little bit deep here. Pelletier Sharp might have a chance, but she's going to be on the outside into the roller coaster. There's no way she can make that one stick. And as much as she wants to try and play teammate for Bryce Sosa up ahead, there's no way she can attack that one from where she is. She's going to have to slot in behind. Now Eli Sasek with 4-lap pressure tires again, 2.5 seconds to try and take the podium.
Pressey goes purple, 108.37, despite being Max Verstappen levels away from first place. It's 33 seconds at the front of this one, but Pressey continues to fight. You love to see that fighting spirit. Who doesn't love a fighter? He will fight until he's burgered. Nick Pressey has that in him. It's fantastic. How about the leader? He's in, though. Sawyer's in. Pressey just went purple. He's got a chance. There's always a chance in racing. Pressey now has to put his foot down and do everything to get as close as possible to Sawyer and pray that there's a mistake that's made. Anything's possible. Big Pink is also in Liv. Car 36 is going to come down and get enough fuel to go the final 6 laps.
Yeah, couldn't quite make it there. Tucker Sawyer, we'll see what tires he goes onto for the final 6. Surely it'll be a set of alternates for a sprint to the finish and an attempt to retake that fastest lap, which, let's remember, is going to give you a bonus point here Tucker Sawyer on the way out of pit lane has a gap of about 5 seconds to Nicholas Pressy. He's got to make sure, and this is probably the key thing, not to feel the pressure for the number 19, to take a nice, calm outlap to get the tyres up into the window. We'll see what happens to the 19, but of course, we've got to have one eye on the three-way fight that we've got for the final podium spot. We'll see whether Tucker Sawyer brings the tyres in and whether he can strike back for that fastest lap.
4.5 seconds the gap between first and second. Sawyer has plenty of time to warm up those tires and make sure he has the right temp to get away. Colin McDonough looks like he just recently had an incident here on lap number 40, car 39, going into the hairpin a bit too hot, and he looks like he's thrown up some smoke. Sasek went green last time around, 1:08.49, and he's still moving at a brilliant pace, 1 second ahead of Lily Pelletier-Sharp and Christina Ryan, 10 seconds in the distance. Saucier, though, losing that gap to Sasek. Liv, 0.8 the gap, coming to 5 laps to go.
And I think this might be the key story here. Pelletier-Sharp has already used up everything left in her push-to-pass reserve. Bryce Saucier, just 21 seconds left in the tank. Eli Sasek, 90 seconds, can push as much as he likes in these final 5 laps to try and get this move done, as Mo Perry, I think, is going to pull out of the way of this pack of lead cars. So they use a little bit more energy, but it's going to have to hope that Sasek can't get a run out and use that button to the advantage here.
Pressy flew off the track. Pressy went off the track there, and that's going to do it for him. Nick Pressy gave it absolutely everything, but on lap 42, he's kicked up a lot of gravel, just way too hot through the roller coaster. Good Lord.
See, on the push pass, so going for another fastest lap attempt to try and get that point, and doesn't get the turn in for that first apex. Because of that, he straddles that second curb, and luckily keeps it out of the barrier, as Tucker Sawyer does indeed respond. A 1:08.215 for our race leader will be the current fastest lap of the race. I don't know whether Pressy has a response here.
Pressy can go for a response, Liv, but if he makes another mistake, it could cost him second, which is worth a lot more than a fastest lap. The best thing for Nick to do is ride for the next 3.5 laps and just avoid any mistakes. Take a deep breath, collect your thoughts, get back into a rhythm, and just bring the car home in second. His teammate Bryce Saucier is only 20 seconds behind him, and Saucier has enough problems moving fast enough as it is to stay away from Eli Sasek. That's down to 1/4 of a second. And looking at their push to pass, Sasek now on the move there to the inside. Eli Sasek goes around Bryce Saucier. Saucier, though, has the advantage on the outside through the run into the roller coaster. Car 07 goes way too hot into the roller coaster. He skids the rear end of that race car. Sasek now tucked up behind him through the straight. Liv. Oh, these two are getting started with, what, 2 laps to go this time by?
And Saucier has nothing left to fight with in the tank. He's out of push to pass. Is going to be down that 60 horsepower on the straights until the end of this one. It's going to actually be 3 to go at the line. That's the gap that Sawyer has. These cars haven't yet finished lap 43. And so Sasek has a full minute to use over these next 3 laps, wherever he so chooses, to try and build that run on the 07. Further back, George Ward, after making that splash and dash stop, and it was just for fuel, has made it past George Ward as Eli Sasek now to the outside, managed to get the move done through turn 2. Saucier's going to maybe try and fight it into turn 5, but no, has to slot in. And now with 50 seconds left, Sasek will surely try and use this to pull away and secure 3rd place. Great move in a spot that even I wasn't expecting.
Sasek has been clean. He's been, I guess, surgical, for lack of a more direct phrase. But he's been on his game. He's been on his job. And already he's out to an 0.8 of a second cap ahead of Bryce Saucier. So as long as Eli doesn't make any fatal mistakes here, he's going to be comfortably in that third position. Nick Pressey 20 seconds ahead and almost the same distance ahead to Tucker Sawyer as well. You're looking at what will potentially be your top three. What a race it's been, Liv. Up, down, a lot of drivers taking spills that you wouldn't expect. Talking about Carmen Sienna, talking about Lily Pelletier-Sharp. And as a matter of fact, Lily Pelletier-Sharp and Bryce Saucier, they both have what? Nothing left in the push to pass? They've used, well, and speaking of Lily Pelletier-Sharp, let's take a look at car 71, Liv. I think we're going to see that she almost put the nose into the wall. Not sure if she's made contact. White flag out this time by.
And yeah, just a little bit deep through turn 2, tried to get a little bit more braking in to stop it from washing out, and ultimately is gonna fall back into the field. White flag is out for Tucker Sawyer. Actually, they're side by side. I think a mistake from Eli Sasson. Even they're fighting.
There's pieces of race car that came off. Oh, yeah, pieces of race car flying off there. And what did I say? If Sasek doesn't make a fatal mistake, that third place is secure. I think he just pushed it too hard. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to formulate an answer when I don't know, but Sasek pushed it too hard. And half a second the gap again with the white flag out. Eli's going to go ahead and start his final lap, and it's going to be... He's going to have a comfortable run into turn number 1. And if he stays on the inside through that carousel there, he's going to have a great exit to get the leap on Bryce. What a race it's been, though. As far as our race leader, Tucker Sawyer, he's going to come out of this final corner 22 seconds ahead of the competition. Domination is the word of the day. Car 19 comes off that final corner, and it is a win at Barber in the ABN Champ Car World Series. 7 tenths, 9 tenths, and now back to 7 as they roll through the roller coaster. Eli Sasek now trying to secure that third position against Bryce Saucier. And Saucier going wide, and now just watching that 9 car peel off into the distance. So Nick Pressey will cross the line for second. If Eli keeps all 4 tires on the black stuff coming through the final couple of corners, he will come home in the third position. Bryce Saucier, he had an excellent chance to win this. Well, and you know what, Liv, maybe with Tucker Sawyer's performance, I'm not going to say Saucier had a chance to win this, but Saucier had an excellent chance at a podium, and I think he knows that.
Yeah. And I want to quickly just check to see how much fuel is on board the number 80 as Christina Ryan has made it on the 2-stop strategy that George Ward was not able to do. Great job for her to go up 4 positions to finish in 6th. Jason Duckworth up 5 to finish 7th behind. But it was such a tight battle there for that final step of the podium, as you said. In fact, it was anyone's game, and it feels like maybe even for that win, if they had been able to focus forward, they could have had a chance. But I think Tucker Sawyer drove a perfect race here, took the lead on the first opportunity that he had. And there you see burning it down, well deserved for the number 19, who is going to be your winner here at Barber.
Fantastic race for the number 19 of Tucker Sawyer. We're going to go through the final running order. We're going to go through our podium positions. Let's go ahead and, while Tucker Sawyer continues to degrade the air quality of Birmingham, Alabama, let's go through our running order here. Obviously, Tucker Sawyer gets that win. Nikki Pressey coming home in that second position. Eli Sasek, who started in 5th, ends up on the podium. Bryce Saucier in 4th, Lily Pelletier-Sharp in 3rd. How about Christina Ryan starting in 10th and coming home with a top 6 finish? Same with JD, Jason Duckworth in that 73 Castro machine. He comes home 7th after starting in 12th. Big Pink up 1 place from where he started. Colin McDonough in 9th. Mitch Semedo rounding out the top 10. Mo Perry and Evan Eisenman rounding out the top dirty dozen. Rookie Craig Yore coming home lucky number 13th. Sean Kirby in that 14th position. Dakota Pierce rounding out the top 15 with Carmen Sienna and Bailey Thompson rounding out your top 17 positions here at Barber Motorsports Park. Sit tight. We're going to get our podium, we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to put this one to bed.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like we've got our race winner already standing by. If you want to take an interview with dominant driver here, Rick James with Tucker Sawyer.
Tucker Sawyer, what can we say? We've used the D word all day today, domination. You didn't have anybody near you, and it seemed like a typical performance all the way to the end. Was there any sort of doubt that you weren't going to win this race?
I'm sorry, your mic cut out for some of that, but I got the last bit. After the initial start, I kind of had some doubts, but I just kept pushing, did my best to keep it on track, saved some fuel, which helped me extend my my last pit stop by 4 laps. So yeah, pretty much perfect race. Couldn't have done anything different there.
Looking at next week's race in 7 nights, we're going to the Texas Motor Speedway. How do you fancy the high banks of the oval?
But if I'm being honest, it's probably my least favorite oval on the entire service. But hopefully it's fun. I'm not really good at ovals, but I will put in the work. Hopefully have the same result there.
I'm excited to see what happens in a week. Congratulations on the dub, Tucker. We'll see you in 7 days.
Yep, thank you.
Liv, you've got our silver medalist, Nick Pressey.
I sure do, Nick. We've obviously talked to you already tonight. Great start to that race, but ultimately, Tucker Sawyer has managed to keep you at arm's length there for a majority of it. What do you think you could have done differently to try and get back at the number 19 there? And are you satisfied with second place here?
Satisfied with second place. I still hate the track vehemently and believe that when I was a baby, it stole candy from me. But no, regarding what I could do better, I think we kind of got duped on the strategy. We had a plan, and theirs was better. We wanted to, we were working on the strats all week, and we didn't even consider the idea of what Tucker ended up doing. Well, we did briefly, but we thought it wasn't worth it, and turns out it very much was. No, I don't think, but me, I'm satisfied with second, and I'm even more satisfied with how it went for the team today. 3 in the top 5. That's who could ever be sad about that.
And speaking of the team, it looks like with the result here, the gap between you and Ascent at the top of the team's championship is just a single point heading into round number 4 of the season. You looking forward to that one being a championship-long battle between you two?
I hope you don't mind asking me who's favorite. I hope you don't mind me asking who's favorites right now.
Well, Ascent are the ones currently up by 1 point, but I wouldn't be able to pick either. I think in that battle.
We got a lot of strong people for ovals, right? So I think if this is how we're performing on the road courses for now, if as long as we just keep working on that, maybe get some more pulls, steal some more points in that way, ovals are going to be very happy affairs for us, assuming all goes well.
Well, we can't wait to see what you've got for next week. Again, any shout-outs, sponsors? Congratulations on the podium finish.
Sure. I'd like to shout out the Trip Design and Collectibles, Trip Diecast and Collectibles store. For your diecast needs. I'd also like to thank my teammates. Lily, Bryce, Colin. They all put a lot of work in for this race because this was one of our weaker tracks for sure. Speaking of this track, I'd like to thank Barber for making me hate it enough to actually work on it. I still hate it. I'd like to thank you and Rick for putting on such a wonderful broadcast.
And thank you, of course, for joining us. We'll see you in a week's time.
Oh, and one more thing. I'd like to thank Tucker. Thanks to you, I don't have to get a haircut.
True.
Thank you, Tucker.
All right.
Congratulations on that second position to Nick Pressey. We'll see him Thursday night at Dover in the Gen 4 cars. Let's talk to our bronze medalist, Eli Sasek. I want to talk to this man right here. And that battle that you had not only with Bryce Saucier at the end, but you seem to have just run a calm race all race long, just managed your tires perfectly, and it ends up in a bronze medal. What could have gone better for you today?
Not putting it off track in the final.
Eli Sasek, Rick James up top. You got me?
Hello? You got me?
Yeah.
And I guess we don't have Eli. Hey, Eli. There. Okay, there we go. There's Eli. Beautiful.
I was about to say, I could hear you and my mic was going off, so I didn't quite know. But I think the thing I could have done better was not go off in the hairpin on the with 2 to go. That was kind of just not great. But overall, I mean, sorry, feel good. My body doesn't, but I felt pretty good about this race. It was a good day for not only for me but for Ascent. Tucker did a good job, and I feel pretty confident going into next week.
Yeah. So I mean, the moves that you pulled off today, I hope you don't plan on pulling those off at Texas, because you're going to find yourself with a much different result.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not going to do a pass on the grass at Texas. I think it. Sometimes I wish I could. It's a lot easier to do that in the stock cars. But if Texas is any, if last season's Texas race was any indication, I think it'll probably be a pack race. A lot of people kind of close together. The draft is going to have a big part of it, and I feel pretty confident in ovals. I think I'm a lot better. I won't say a lot better, but I think I'm better on the road courses in this car. Ovals, kind of depends on the oval, but they can be a bit tricky. So I'm pretty excited for Texas. It's going to be an interesting race, I think.
I can't wait to see it, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with all that pack racing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Congratulations on the bronze.
Thank you.
Fans at home.
So apologies for that. I may have accidentally dragged our lead commentator out of the booth there. So give a quick mic check to Rick James on that one.
Have you got me now?
Yes, I've got you. Sorry, I tried to drag Pressey out and he'd already hopped out.
Technical difficulties. That's all right. That's all right. We're almost at the finish line ourselves. Texas in a week's time. The championship is going to be up for grabs, because it's not going to be Tucker Sawyer's race. That race. It's going to be somebody who can manage the draft, their tires, all of it. I'm excited. I'm also just still buzzing from the action we saw today. I can't wait next week for Texas.
Yeah, no, but it's going to be a great one. It's from what the racing has been like in recent weeks at races at Texas, the turn 1 and 2 complex is going to be so tricky to get right. And then the runs you get towards start finish. We've seen some dramatic finishes there in Champ Car past, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have another barn burner down in the Lone Star State.
7 days away, and I can't wait. Until that next race, everybody, please stay safe. Do take care of each other, and we will see you all around the corner.